All set.
Okay, it is June 13th. It's a little after 6:30. Welcome to the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association monthly board meeting. My name is James DeRofi. I'm the board chair. If the board could go around and introduce themselves, we do have a quorum.
I'm Dave Johnson. I'm the acting vice chair.
Jen Sawyer, Community Outreach.
Karen, you're muted.
Yes, Karen Johnson, Land Use Chair.
Brian Kennedy, Ben Beautification Program.
And Ross Tanty, board member.
Excellent. For those of you that don't normally come to these meetings, we are live streaming this and it's recorded so anybody can watch after the fact. We are fortunate enough that one of our city councilors does join us whenever they are available. So Melanie's going to be giving us an update. I'm sure at this point, everybody does know how to use Zoom, but there is a little feature down at the bottom where you can raise your hand if you have a question. As we go through the topics tonight, I will ask for people for public opinion or public comments on each topic at the time of the topic. We're a little less formal than city council level, but we still try to remain somewhat formal. And I do encourage everybody to be civil. This is a public group of nonprofit volunteer people all working to do the best for the southeast side of town. We are also joined by Jim Christo, who is part of the Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association. They and the Old Farm District have been working hand in hand for at least a year now, trying to just address and deal with everything that's happening to us on the southeast quadrant of town, because the world doesn't stop at Murphy Road. We're all neighbors. So that being said, Melanie, how about we let you kick it off with your update, if you have any, and whatever questions people may have for you. I know the city and city council has been very busy recently. And
yes. Yeah. So I think the most recent thing is that we actually just swore in 2 new counselors today at 3 p.m. So we went through our process over the past few weeks of declaring a vacancy, opening the applications, whittling down the applications, and then going through our interview process and voting. We did the interviews of the top 8 candidates last Thursday and then deliberated and voted at that meeting. So if you want to see that, you can go back and watch that meeting from last Thursday. And so the 2 new counselors are Steven Segal, who's a victim advocate in the Deschutes County DA's office, and then Mo Mitchell, who is a local mental health counselor. And both of them are coming from positions where they were appointed to our Human Rights and Equity Commission. Mo had been appointed some time ago, and Stephen had been recently appointed. So definitely both already interested in public service and serving their community. And I'm really excited to get to work with them. They'll be, they were sworn in today, so they will be full counselors and sitting in our meeting on Wednesday and get to participate in the whole thing. So we'll have 7 people up on the dais again. So that's the biggest, most recent thing. We had a pretty hefty meeting at our last meeting with a lot of different topics. So if anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to answer. And then we are starting in a work session this Wednesday, work on our right-of-way policy for camping in the public right-of-way in the city of Bend. So if you're interested in that, there's going to be a good overview from our legal team at our work session on Wednesday about what we can and can't do within the confines of the legal landscape and what we're going to look to regulate and how we're going to develop the policy, and then have outreach and education for the community on the topic as we move through it. So anyone interested in that, be sure to tune in Wednesday or watch that recording. And that's all I got right now. I got to tell you, having the 30-day requirement in our charter to appoint someone is a real squeeze. Lots of extra meetings when we usually don't have any. So I've been kind of head down on that process and don't have a lot of other prepared update, but happy to answer questions.
well, since we have a city councilor that's letting you ask questions, does anybody have any questions for her? Wow. Melanie, you're getting off even easier than normal.
Awesome. I'll put my email in the chat for anybody that wants to email a question.
Yes, and for people that are watching this or they can't watch it live, Old Farm District has a website, oldfarmbend.com. It is in the process of trying to get rebuilt, which is very complicated, and that's some things we're going to be working with city staff on. And for those of you that do not know, Dave is stepping down as the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance representative, and Ross has been given unanimous support by our board. It will be up to the mayor to whether or not he gets appointed, but I believe he will. But that is not official yet. That is a city council and above task. The Neighborhood Leadership Alliance is the group. It's a permanent city committee of all the 13 neighborhood associations that was created about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's had some growing pains, but I think they're going to get worked out. On that note, it's good to see some regular people in the audience. Nothing else for Melanie? All right. Melanie, can I have a suggestion? One of the things that I know the Old Farm has been struggling with, and a couple of other neighborhoods, when these sort of important discussions come up with city council, yes, we can all go and like rewatch the video. This is just a food for thought. If there's some way there could be like a synopsis or like a time link frame in the YouTube meetings of the city council that people can read without sitting there for 2 to 5 hours, depending on whatever the topic may be, that would be help us educate everybody and just let the general people, you know, who have families and kids and things like that to learn about things a little bit easier. Just food for thought.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen, there's actually a private citizen in Bend that's doing summaries of our meetings. I'll put the link. It's sort of like I used to do live stream tweeting before I was on council, and then some people would be like, oh, I just read that and I don't have to watch the meeting. But somebody who's interested in our meetings, they're from Reddit, where they first started posting them. I'll put the link in the chat. I'm not saying this is a replacement for how cities should be communicating, but it's out there because yeah, it is a lot to watch, rewatch the meetings. I will say if you go, there is the ability, James, when you go into the replay on the city, but if you click on the agenda, you can get right to your items, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing. But that's part of why we started doing those updates that Megan does at the beginning of the meetings. It's sort of just like, here's what's going on in this, popular topic, so that if someone didn't watch the last meeting, they can see, oh, at the last meeting we approved this or that, or here's what's coming up at this meeting. So yeah, I think there's probably some other ways to get out. I think, what does the superintendent at the school do? He does like a summary, I think, after school board meetings and things like that. We just have a lot more meetings with a lot more stuff going on in them, but that's a interesting suggestion, so I'm writing it down.
Well, and the fact you just said, what does the superintendent of the schools do? I bet if we were in a different meeting with a different topic, people would laugh like hell at that. So, but that being said, and since Melanie is done with her update, so we're going to briefly update everybody. Oh, wait, Jen.
Wait, Melanie, are you guys still doing the City of Bend podcast?
Yeah, they're still doing that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And is that available on like all the streaming platforms like Spotify and whatnot?
It should be. I'll double check.
Okay. That's another way for people to hear what's happening within the city. The school district does that as well, FYI.
Jen is our social media person on our board, and she never has too much that she could post. So if she can have somebody else that she can just copy and paste or whatever, I think that'd be great. So to the Alpenglow meeting, or the Alpenglow grand opening, which is basically being put on by Parks, co-hosted with Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association and the Old Farm. It has been extremely complicated. We have been working with city staff and with the Parks Department, and just due to the reality of the still COVID and some other situations, we technically do not have a final date as of today. it is supposedly July 15th. We are having another meeting tomorrow, and we will keep everybody updated. So from July 15th, which is a Friday, which is now the third date in discussion, it is going to go from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Alpenglow Park. And Melanie, I'd love to have a conversation with you about how this is, the planning went down and whenever you are available. We do know a lot about it. And so we're going to talk about some of that this evening. And then you're going to start getting newsletters from us, and you're going to start seeing advertising from us about the actual date. But essentially, there's going to be 25 different non-local area nonprofits set up around the park. There's going to be live music, at least 4 bands at this point, 3 or 4 food trucks. There's going to be parking at the new high school, Caldera High School, with a shuttle service that goes back and forth. We are bringing in extra bicycle racks, and we are encouraging anybody within, a mile or 2, ride their bike, walk to the park. There are new trails put in the way, and all of the new roads that have been upgraded have bike lanes and the newest ADA compatible sidewalks. It is designed to get there by way of walking or bicycle. On that note, the neighborhood associations are going to have a very large table area. We're going to be answering questions, have information. We're going to have maps. We're going to be giving away some prizes and some just, I don't know, what do you call it, Jen? Swag is the correct term for free stuff you get at a festival?
Sure.
Sure. I don't know of a better term.
Tchotchkes.
Yeah.
Tchotchkes? Okay, no. Yes, we on that note, the majority of our board has been working on that. We are also going to have some sort of event or two to distract people and have fun at, as are some of the other nonprofits. At this point, we have not finalized those items, but I will give you a heads up. I am pushing for the mobile axe throwing facility to be our distraction for adults and kids. We are looking at some other items as well, and hopefully we're going to be finalizing all of these in the next few days. Since Jen, Brian, and Jim, you've been in part of all of these conversations, have I missed anything as far as a general statement yet, or?
But I just have a question. Last Friday, I heard somebody talking about perhaps July 18th. Have you heard anything about that? I didn't get a chance to question that date, but I was just wondering if there's anything to that.
Well, that would be a Monday, so I doubt it. I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
And Michaela has been calling me about every 3 days, and I've been getting lots of emails from Julie. But I do know the original concepts were the week after July 4th, and then that got moved, and then it got moved to June 15th, which got moved, and now we're at July 15th. So I have not heard that one, Jim. So maybe we will know more tomorrow. But that, I think, would be a terrible idea to have a big party on a Monday evening. But I don't know. I guess we can discuss that. If anybody in the audience today, as a concept, what would be a great large neighborhood gathering on a Friday afternoon or a Monday afternoon?
Probably Saturday or Sunday afternoon would be even better, I guess.
Yeah, I think Monday would probably be one of the worst days.
Jim, you're the NLA rep for SEBNA, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we have a meeting tomorrow afternoon right after the meeting with Julie Brown of Parks and Rec.
Okay, Ann, you have your hand up.
I just have a quick question. Is the pushing back of the date just to accommodate this large grand opening celebration, or are they not done with the construction of the park? Because it seems like most of the construction's done and the park clotheslines are still up. So I'm just curious about this actual status of the build of the park. If anyone knows.
And that is a great question. And the reality is that is what we have been told by parks. Initially, the initial opening was supposed to be on July 1st. And that is when the transfer of legal responsibility goes from the person developing the park to the Parks Department. I know they were having some issues with a couple items in the park regarding the playground. There was a rock wall outcropping and how to deal with that for the kids' safety. There's also a large a rock climbing area that there's going to be actually instructions for people of all different skill levels. And I don't know if that's finished yet. Our next update is tomorrow, and Southeast Bend and Old Farm are part of that. And at this point, the developer and parks are in their own world, and we just get to ride the roller coaster on the outside of it.
Well, thank you for that. You know, I live right down here, and I drive by it almost daily, and I can tell you that there's lots of people in the park at all times. I think it's just been a little confusing for the neighborhood, you know, as to what is actually going on and what's causing the delays. I think it would have been nice if they could have done maybe a little better job of explaining to the public what, you know, what's going on, because people are definitely walking through, climbing on the rock wall, and, you know, doing what people do, regardless of what the signs say. So I was just curious.
We will relay that to the Parks Department tomorrow. Yes, we are all curious.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like add one thing. The July 15th date was chosen, so it was far enough away from their July 4th celebration. That's why it had to move back a week. That's basically the reason that we were told. So they have a big
Yes.
celebration for July 4th, and they were getting too close to each other, so they moved one back.
I guess the pet parade also has been changed. So for people that normally participate in the pet parade, the route is now different. I recommend everybody going to the Parks Department website to see that. And these are all last minute changes that we are all, as residents of Bend, are finding out about. And it is from the Parks Department. It is not a City of Bend issue. There is possibly a talk about having a soft opening. And that's basically going to be a few park representatives and maybe the press. And at that point, they may take the signs down, and then the park will officially be open, but it will not be the big gathering that we are trying to put on. The old farm district in Southeast Bend, we're trying to get everybody out and to see the new park, and also just to see their friends and family in an outdoor setting. And hopefully this will be one of many events to come. And some of the things we've also talked about are, the words elude me, Jen. Farmers markets, future farmers markets for the southeast side of town, things like that. I have nothing else to say. Brian, Jen, anything on the annual meeting?
I do have one other question for you, Jim. Did you ever hear back from Press Pros?
Yes.
'Cause
So
I haven't gotten anything from you on it.
yeah, so I had a very long conversation with Press Pros, and Melanie, you may find this interesting. So right now, historically, the way the neighborhood associations have been tasked with reaching out to the people are using direct-to-door mailing. And Southeast Bend essentially has 3 routes of direct-to-door mailing. And one of those routes is actually outside of the city limits. The old farm district actually, in order to get mailing to all of the old farm district, there are 6 mailing routes, but those routes go into the old mill district. They also go outside of city limits, and they go into the Larkspur area. So Jim, to answer your question, Michaela told me the city of Bend has bought a mailing list that the neighborhood associations can now access. That mailing list was supposed to be available Friday. Since I have not heard from anybody, I guess it is not. And it is going to be neighborhood association specific, and it is entirely different than the United States Postal Service. It's just another political boundary that as volunteers, we're sort of having to deal with. But for the old farm district, we're tasked with reaching out to 4,500 different homes or doors, I should say. And the mailing that the Postal Service was wanting us to do was 5,400 units, which is an extremely difference in cost. And one of the things I did learn is we have been shorting some of our areas in the old farm district by almost 500 units the last couple of mailings we've done, because they're actually considered part of Deschutes County rural mailing. And Melanie, just so you know, one of those areas has a very high concentration of Spanish speaking as the first language housing. And this is something that some of the city staff and us have been working on, but it's beyond complicated. And since we're volunteers trying to reach these people, and I know it's important as part of the goals for the city council, you just need to hear it firsthand. It has not been easy because we are being constrained by every kind of government agency, even though we're trying to do our best. Does that answer your question, Jim? No?
Yeah, they were gonna send you something.
Yeah, they were gonna send me something, and it basically had to do with the breakdown of the door-to-door mailing. And then Michaela asked me to stop that because Michaela doesn't want us sending basically 1,400 postcards to people that aren't even in the city limits or in our area. And I am still waiting on that information. It has to do with the GIS department. As soon as I find out about it, I will know about it. But when we talk in parks tomorrow, since they are trying to reach 2 miles out, I'm sure they will be interested in the information as well. This is just one of the complications that I do not have an answer. Jim, you do not have an answer.
Okay.
And when city council is interested in how our funding is allocated, this is going to be one of the things that I bring up. So.
Okay, my concern here is that it's already the middle of June, so we're about a month away. And I don't know what the lead time for press pros is, because we've got to design the brochure, get them to print it,
10 days.
10 days to.
If we can get them the print, they need 7 to 10 days to get it printed. And then that will give them 1 to 2 weeks to get it in the mail. And at this point, we are waiting on city staff to get us the information. There's nothing you or I can do to expedite the process.
Well, we could start designing something. We're talking about maybe sending it to residents, and we just have to design something which has perhaps both of our NA's names on it. And that's going to take a little bit of time too. And that's what I'm concerned about.
So that we can discuss in the parks meeting, because they're going to have some of the information they want. From what I did gather from talking to press pros and from Michaela, there is no financial benefit to print your information and our information together. It's going to be negligible. So you guys can do your own distinct drawing people to your own website, your own social media, and we can do the same as ours. And we can discuss more of this tomorrow. But at this point, it is a cost savings, but the cost isn't the printing; it's the mailing. That's the big difference. But we can start working on the design. I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. So another issue that I have, and I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to mention it, is the fact that June 30th, which is the end of the time we can use this year's funds, is rapidly approaching. And I'm not sure when we could, if we're going to be able to use this year's funds. We may end up having to use next year's funds. That's my concern.
Jim, let me, for the sake of everybody online, let me give you a call tomorrow and I can give you some more
Okay.
direct answers to that. If anybody has any questions about our funds or any of the neighborhood association funds, they are on the city's website. All of our budget is determined on a biennial basis. And we do work on the same fiscal year as the city of Bend, which is July 1st to June 30th. But I can answer those questions, Jim, tomorrow.
What time do you want to either 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, somewhere that time?
9:30.
I can do 9:30.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow at 9:30.
Okay, talk to you then.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that, folks. But this is some of the things that we do as a neighborhood association to get everybody together. On that note, we do need to move on. Bend Beautification Program. There's an evaluation. Brian was part of it. It looks like one of our volunteers who has been behind it is not on tonight. Where'd you go, Brian? Brian, there you are. Sorry. I'm looking at all the tiles trying to find your face. So
I'm here.
if you wouldn't mind, give us an update on the last cleanup and a quick rundown on when these cleanups are and what do you think we should do going forward?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for our audience feedback on this too. The Bend Beautification Program is a citywide program, which I'm heading for the Old Farm District. Essentially, what we have laid out is a cleanup of roadside trash and debris in the Old Farm District, and we had scheduled those out for the first Thursday of each month, starting at 9 a.m. and typically run a couple hours on the outside. We had really, and we've been doing this now for 3 months. We do it basically April through October due to weather concerns. That said, we had a really strong showing our first time, and we had bad weather the second time, and our third time was better, but we've had small turnouts. We've been extraordinarily effective, cleaned up a lot of debris and a lot of strange things that are on the sides of our roads that are no longer there. So it's been effective, but I'm interested in feedback about whether our frequency is too much, whether there's an issue with the day or time. And our next scheduled event would be on July 7th. So I'm particularly looking for feedback from those people who might be inclined to otherwise help with this program about that being the holiday week. And so I'm looking to determine whether July 7th should stand, or we would potentially move it to the July 21st, also a Thursday, and at the same time. It's really important to know how many volunteers we're going to have on a given date, because we need to have that so we can sort of do the work behind scouting the neighborhoods for what areas are in the greatest need, and then realizing how many folks we have to do the work and how large of an area we can do. So there is some coordination with the city that goes on before and after. Yeah, the program has been great. We just love to have a little bit stronger turnout on the individual days. We do these, by the way, rain or shine, and that will also hold true with the presumed heat coming. We probably would not do it if we had smoke issues, but otherwise it is a rain or shine event. And I'm just looking for feedback about what would be most effective for the month of July, whether we do it the 7th or the 21st.
Brian, what day or what roads have you already done, and what road is going to be that you're proposing?
Well, I start by getting the volunteers, and once I have the number of volunteers, I scout the areas, because the size of the volunteer group dictates the area that we can cover in the time that we typically spend on it. Thus far, we've covered pretty much all of 15th to from Reed Market to Murphy. We've done Ferguson from 15th to 27th. We have done the 2 sessions ago, we did the southern part of Burrell, and this last go around, which was in the rain, and this last go around, we did the northern part of Burrell Road, which was quite an abomination. Picked up a lot of trash and ugly stuff. So we scout for the worst areas, and hopefully we won't have to revisit some of the same areas, but we are trying to cycle through all the neighborhoods, and do also look for feedback. So if any of our members would like to suggest an area where the volunteer group could do some good work, we'd like to hear that as well. We do have participation or opportunities to sign up for that on the website. And certainly anyone can contact me directly if they wish to get more information or provide me any information, which would be great.
Martha or Susie, it looks like you've replied in the chat to Brian. Would you mind asking him directly or just joining the conversation?
I will add, I see the comments there about weekends. And that is definitely an opportunity. When we polled the membership to start the program, Thursdays were the most favored day, and Saturday was the next most favored day. So if it turns out that the people who are actually going to participate would prefer a Saturday, we'll look to try to make that work. So I do appreciate that feedback. And I also see are they advertised on Facebook? Jen, can you help me with that? Do you know?
Yeah, I did one post when we first started up, but we have been narrowing down how to get people to sign up for that. Is the website up to par with how to get people signed up for that now?
Well, yeah, that has been a hit or miss subject, so we do need to make sure that stays a constant on there.
Okay, so maybe we can discuss this, and maybe in July we test out a Saturday, and then I can promote it on Facebook and Nextdoor. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think anything's a possibility right now.
All right, cool.
But I would, if that's the case, if there is, for those of you who have suggested the weekends would be good, I'd love to hear feedback, because I know once we get into the summer, everybody is so busy and people are traveling and they've got guests. And so it doesn't do a lot of good for me to just say, oh, this is the date we're going to do it, if we don't have any volunteers that are available. So if people have suggestions, I'd love to hear them.
So Brian, I definitely, I think you already do this. Be sure to save this chat at the end of the meeting. You've got 3 or 4 people that are definitely interested in joining, and a good comment from Melanie. So yeah, if we've got volunteers and people want to make sure the southeast side of town is cleaned up, then I say we take advantage of it. I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Any other comments that somebody would like to ask or put into the chat while we're still on this topic? Okay. So we have a quick land use update. Karen, we don't have to go into too much depth. I know the one thing we sent out on the newsletter actually wasn't part of the old farm district, but I will let you add your colorful commentary to whatever you like.
Actually, my observations are not part of the old farm district today. They're more citywide. Concerning the quality of life, next door, there was a man writing about what's happening across the river. 2 large developments are going in and all the trees are coming down. Some of you may recall that CNN published an article, a couple of months ago. A company called Climate Change, they're a charitable organization, a research firm, had analyzed the urban heat islands in 158 cities, and they rated Bend 14th. Folks in this town kind of brushed it off and said, oh, that cannot possibly be true. Maybe it's because we're in the mountains and there isn't, there's too much of a temperature gradient between the city and the urban area and the rural area. Well, I've been talking to the company that did this, and called Climate Change. And in fact, we deserve to be number 7 in the country. It's something called albedo. It's the amount of light that is or is not reflected from the city. When you look at the east side of town, we are roads, tarmac, roofs, and driveways. I'm getting ready to write a letter to the editor about it, but in fact, our destruction of the trees is putting us high on the list of urban heat islands around the country. And I just wanted to throw that in. I think it's bad.
Thank you, Karen. That's super important to get on everybody's radar.
And for people that don't know, Karen is our land use chair. Any of the developments or any of the developers of a certain level, they're required to notify the neighborhood association. Karen then talks with or communicates with those individuals, and we as a neighborhood association make sure that information gets out to the people, which is always a reason to sign up on the newsletter. We do not put all of that information on social media. We try to make sure it ends up on the website, or we definitely make sure it ends up on the website. And certain projects, they end up on the newsletter. And just so you know, from a historical standpoint, there are certain people in town that do not believe people should be notified about projects beyond the 500 or 700 foot rule. The old farm district, this board for over a decade now has thought it was important that people should know about large developments, even if it's beyond the minimal requirements of law.
Well,
It's all
James,
public information.
I have another matter, if I may. Sarah Moss is on here. Of course, James Christo also is involved, and Susie. The update on the gas station. They want to put a gas station on the corner of Broster Health and Murphy. The Southeast Bend is leading the charge on this, and it's important. We're gathering signatures for a petition. We need money. Last week, we hired a traffic engineer that is going to be very useful to us in trying to assess the danger to the public of siting a gas station on this area. And if Sarah wants to add more, she's welcome to do it.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
Sarah,
that, Karen. Yes.
Sarah, before you add more, I just need to clarify for legal purposes. The old farm district, the neighborhood association has not taken a position on this. But as residents of the southeast side of town, we do encourage people to speak up around land use development. So I just have to say that we are not we are not pro or anti-development. But if people need to speak, we always ask for public commentary. So this is your public commentary, Sarah.
Okay, yes. Well, we're gathering signatures for the Old Farm and Southeast Bend to, demonstrate that there's enough opposition to the gas station so that the neighborhood associations could comfortably take a stand. But just like Karen said, we've hired a lawyer, a land use lawyer now, Dan Kearns. We've hired a traffic engineer out of Portland, Rick Nice, and we've raised $8,500 for that fund. We have a new newsletter about ready to go out. So if anybody wants to go to Southeast Bend Livability to sign up and subscribe, go for it. And we'll get you the newsletter and just keep you up to date on that. Right now, just the status with the permit, and I'll keep it quick, James. I know you got a lot to cover, but with the status of the permit is that it was submitted in May. The developer has until mid-October to finalize their application. It's woefully incomplete, the application, very little information in the application. So I think people are jumping to conclusions because all you can see is the pictures in there, is from what we can tell. But as we go door to door and gather signatures, we're just getting so much opposition to the gas station, and really a hope for a walkable, bikeable commercial development there on that corner. That's it.
Sarah, that's fine. Once again, this is the neighborhood association is the people of Southeast Bend and Old Farm District to communicate ideas back and forth. As a board, all we kind of do is hold the meetings. So if people are interested in this, there are groups that are forming this. And one of the large tasks that the neighborhood associations have, and one of the big ones of why Karen's important, is land use notification. And as more and more people move here and things get developed, how things get developed and land use 101 are very key. The one statement I always tell people is, if you see the bulldozer on the land, it's too late. So you need to read the newsletters, find out about what's happening. There is a
James,
process.
That is such a great point, because I feel like the learning curve around land use is so steep, and I've been on a steep learning curve and trying to spread the word with Susie and Karen and Ken and lots of other neighbors in Southeast Bend, just because it is so steep. There's so much to know. We have been having direct contact with the city planner, Heidi Kennedy. So she's been awesome and answering our questions. But I think one of the things too is, just to your point, we were way ahead of things on this development for sure. At the same time, it's even, I feel like in some ways we were too late, or are not too late. I shouldn't say that, but we could have been earlier. Let me put it that way. And when we attended the Shiloh presentation, there's a convenience commercial lot on Shiloh, there on Country Club and Murphy. So I think, we're exploring ways to take the conditional use permit option off of that property, because that's just, another gas station waiting to happen, or drive through. So to your point, it can never be early enough.
And for everybody to know, if you're a resident of Bend, this all matters. If you're a renter, you're basically paying your landlord's property taxes. If you're a homeowner, you're paying property taxes. This is all part of being a part of society in a free democracy. As long as you're civil, I encourage everybody to take place. And I think it's great, Sarah, that you're working with city staff to answer some of your questions that you have. So these are all very good things.
Oh, good. Thanks for the support. I mean, for the words of encouragement, let me put it that way, to get involved.
And I'm just sitting here with the chat. Councilor Keebler, Mr. Olson has asked, is it appropriate to have you comment on the gas station concept? I know you live near it. I also know you are a city councilor and haven't been shown any of this officially. So I will let you answer this question however you like.
No, because I could sit as a quasi-judicial role of making a decision about this land use process with this complete parcel, with this particular parcel. So I'm not going to comment on it directly. But of course I'm following, what's going on. And yeah, I drive over the Murphy Bridge and see the signs. So it's very apparent, and how some people in the community feel about it. And the only thing I was going to mention is just that there have been other cities, I think Minneapolis, that just straight up said, we're done building drive-throughs. And I don't know if that applied to gas stations, probably not, but that they recognize that, like, that car-centered use creates trips, creates cars that go back and forth across the sidewalk, and that they, in order to become a better place to get around, not in a car, and to have less of those interactions and crossing points, they just moved away from building drive-throughs altogether. So other cities are recognizing that that type of use cannot be as compatible with a walkable neighborhood. So
that is so helpful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I know in Sonoma, in California, they banned new gas stations. So it's like, I guess we're starting to do that kind of research. So that's super helpful. Thank you very much.
Karen, technically this is still your land use time. Do you have anything else to add?
I don't have any other topics to discuss. And I see there's some comments about trees. And I've already said what I thought about that. 3 years ago, I submitted a proposed tree code to the city council that would actually protect some of our larger trees. And as far as I know, nothing has been done about it. That's all I can say about trees.
It's in our 2-year goals, and that would not have happened if people had not written us to ask that it be in our 2-year goals. So it's in there.
Karen, you see, you should smile about that. Jennifer, I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, it was just for that question regarding how to apply pressure to making sure that our trees get in the conversation, because Rome is indeed burning right now. we just lost huge parcels over here off of Peril, and it's really, really heartbreaking to drive past these developments where the land has been wiped clean. It's not sustainable. So that was all.
And on this, I have to just, as I continue to read the chat, Susie, for the audience asked, is this an issue that city council could take up? Doing away with car-centric builds, drive-throughs, and gas stations. Before I even ask Melanie to answer that, I'm going to say this is a very complicated topic. Land use is more than just a city issue. It's also a county and a state issue. The city council could have an issue or could have a say, but the powers that be are much higher. And if Melanie would like to respond, it is definitely her place to.
Yeah, so I think there are some pretty big rules coming down from the state that have been moving along called the climate friendly and equitable community rules. And those rules, a big goal of them is to reduce vehicle miles traveled and to have cities build housing in neighborhoods in a way that reduces vehicle miles traveled. So I have not checked in those rules if there's specific mandates or suggestions or anything about, you know, car centric designs of businesses like drive-throughs or gas stations, but cities are going to have to meet some of those reduction of vehicle miles traveled goals, and they're going to have to plan on how to meet them. And so that this may come up as part of that discussion if cities do that work going forward. But yeah, it's likely to be something. I don't know of any other Oregon city that's specifically looked at that, so it may need to be something that comes from the state as far as getting started here in Oregon. And I can tell you that the climate friendly rules are going to have a lot of requirements for cities to do pretty big planning efforts, including maybe revising our transportation system plan, you know, all of our UGB and growth management work and housing needs analysis. We're going to have a lot of stuff to do because of these rules. And so things outside of those rules are going to have to either fit into that umbrella or maybe have to wait until we are meeting and making sure that we're meeting all the mandates from the state. So that's a big thing kind of coming our way. But I wanted also to say I think there's some movement at the state level to talk about urban canopy and urban forestry and how to help cities move to either replant or preserve as much of that as possible while still meeting all of our goals to become more urban and more dense, which is what's coming from this climate friendly rule. And I know there's rules, for instance, in the climate friendly package about if you build a parking lot, a requirement to put, you know, certain trees in it or have certain solar shading and things like that, which actually circles back to that heat island topic because parking lots are a huge reason. Like Karen said, tarmac is a big factor in that heat island conversation. So that's what I have for that.
Ross, can you do me a favor since you're hosting this? Can you pull up or find very quickly at the state level the climate friendly equitable transportation project or concept that they've been working on for the last 2 years? Post that into the chat. I think it'll answer Susie's follow-up. Susie, I have been a part of a few statewide groups. I don't want to say group because they're not organizations. They're just public information gathering from a state level. So yes, there is a lot going forward with this, and it has been now for a while. And as soon as Ross finds it, and I know he's capable, we will post that. I do know on a local level, Ben Bikes has been a part of some of that information as well.
You're talking about the one that's at the state level?
Yes, it is a state level. It was a governor's executive order, and it's literally climate friendly
And equitable communities rulemaking.
Yes.
I think that's it, and that's posted there now. I hope that's the right
Okay.
thing. Please let me know if not.
Yes, thank you. And it looks like Melanie was on top of that too.
Oh.
Excellent. So on that, we're going to go to the last topic on our agenda tonight to stay on time. The Midtown pedestrian and bicycle crossings. I believe today is the first day of public comment for that topic. It is, in my opinion, a large part of how Bend may develop. I personally think it's a great thing. I don't think the funding's all there yet. Melanie may be able to correct me. But do go to the city's or the site that is now posted in the chat. There is a public comment period. There's also going to be an in-person gathering about it. And I know Karen may have some to add to this. Melanie may. I can add more, but I don't want this to be my opinion meeting. This needs to be an informational meeting. Nope.
Yeah, I mean, right now there was money in our transportation bond allocated to do a feasibility study, and that's what's been started is, looking at all three crossings, Franklin, Hawthorne, and Greenwood, and kind of get an initial picture of what's possible there and how much it's going to cost. We don't have funds totally allocated to cover, for instance, the cost of building a bridge on Hawthorne over the Parkway and the railroad. We have some, and we are continuing to seek more. And that's something, a bridge like that, there can be a lot of different pots of money you can draw from, especially from the state and federal, coffers. So we're continuing to look at how we can fully fund that. But also part of this feasibility study is going out to the public and talking about what's a priority for the public, or, what are some of your visions about what crossings could be improved, as well as having a whole new bridge built. Franklin is very difficult because that is a historic bridge. So making huge changes to those really close and unlit underpasses is going to be tough, but there could be some things we can do there to improve that further. And then Greenwood, I think there's a lot of opportunity there with the space that's there to improve that as well. So yeah, the link there, and then it's June 22nd at 5 p.m. at a place called Open Space down in the Midtown area. Is the in-person in-house, which will probably be more fun with big maps that you can draw on or give comments to and talk to engineers and people about what you want to see there. So yeah, I agree with you, James. It's a pretty crucial part of our transportation network that we need to build out and make better.
More fun. Listen to you. Okay. So that being said, if anybody has specific questions about anything, or even just general questions, now's a good time to ask. There is one thing that Melanie really said that I'd like to focus in on, and there's a lot of things that are in plans or in works or thoughts and processes in the city of Bend and in Deschutes County that are not funded. But a lot of times people focus in on them and they freak out on either side of whatever opinion it is. But this is a government. There is taxes involved. There is funding involved. So I always encourage people, before you start listening to spreading rumors or getting upset about whatever might be considered disinformation of any kind on a local level, things have a cost, and someone has to write the check. And if there isn't money to pay for something, it doesn't happen. And I don't care what it is. It could be any topic. So I just want to say that. And I know that's sort of different than where Melanie was going, but ultimately we have a budget committee that is always looking for people to, on a city level, to join. And if you really want to see how the city works and why things happen a certain way, watch a couple budget meetings. It will be eye-opening. I now look back at the chat room. Anne, question for Melanie. Update on Whirl Park issue. Who will make the final decision? I don't know anything.
I don't have an update on that. That's a county decision, not a city. Karen, what do you got?
Well, I attended one of the Save World Park gatherings. Phil Chen was there, also Patty Adair. Patty wants to keep the park. Phil wants to reduce it. That is to say, right now it's about a 27-foot high hill. It'll be reduced to a flat level area and adding, I think, 58 more car spaces. Phil was questioned about, why do you want to do this? He said, well, the county courthouse has to be expanded. I think they've added 2 more judges, and we need parking for the county courthouse. The answer back was, well, County owns land directly behind the courthouse, wants to build a parking structure there. And the bottom line is that, oh, that it costs so much money, I think, $7 million. If you've been following the county finances the last couple of years, they've been talking about the fact that the latest tax cut has left them in a bad situation concerning infrastructure. And they may not have money to do much of anything. I recommend writing the county commissioners, build a parking structure, save the park. 7.5 million is nothing compared to the size of the county's budget. They could afford to save the park and put parking elsewhere. That's it.
Okay, I'm just, and for people that do not know, so we are a city group, but we do work with the county. So Tony DeBone, Patty Adair, and Phil Chang are our 3 county commissioners. You can reach out to them on your own. If you need to, reach out to us. Oh, Melanie put it in the chat, board@deschutes.org. Thank you, Melanie. We are near our time for our public meeting. We're trying to shorten these, and I think people like the new format. This has been a new format for 3 or 4 months now. We've been keeping them under an hour. And as I look at the screen, I sort of see some eyes and things like that. Does anybody have any comments or anything else they would like to add? Otherwise, I would say we can adjourn the meeting unless I hear something. Ross, you clicked so you can be, your microphone is on. Does that mean you want to
I
speak?
just wanted to say thanks.
If that is the case, we are going to be adjourning the meeting. Ross, please hit stop recording